That was a beautiful late summer fall day. We were riding the all new Devinci Troy. This is supposed to be a quiver killer, 160 millimeter travel up front, 150 in the rear. That places this bike squarely into the kind of bikes I ride and am interested in. This bike has a really cool story behind it. It's like our first aluminum bike in a bit. And also this frame is made in Canada, so that's really cool. I just love that Devinci is able to do that. Being an alloy bike, I notice a decent few pound weight penalty, maybe pound, I don't even know. Yeah, but I do sometimes feel like aluminum has a different ride quality to it. It can be a little bit softer at times. I would say this bike climbs quite efficiently. Definitely feels like there's a decent amount of anti-squat. Propping that rear shock up as you pedal. This bike did come with double down tires, DHR2 in the rear, GHF in the front. That double down casing comes in super handy on the downhills. A little bit more to drag uphill as you're pedaling around. I think this bike could be a super peppy pedaler with a little bit lighter casing on it, as most of the review bikes come with, but super fun to have that thick sidewall on the downhill. I really love the seated position on this bike. Definitely another one of those bikes that just feels like it honors all the current trends of bike geometry. And then it doesn't feel in any way strange when you hop on it. It just feels like a new age, stable, good climber with a balanced, hip position on the climb. Get your center of gravity a little bit further forward. I think this large has like a 76 and change seat angle, which I don't think tells the full story, because it also has 442 chain stays in the size large, so a little bit longer. And I find that the longer chain stays on the climb tend to really help your weight bias, keep that front wheel down on the steep climbs, which is just really important for the terrain here in Bellingham. Constantly winching up really steep access roads and trails to ride fun downhills. Yeah, this bike just represents such a good all-arounder. They went to make a quiver killer, and they clearly just did a great job. Man, yeah, this thing, pretty good out of the saddle climber. Pretty impressed with how much kind of anti-squat comes on when you're pedaling out of the saddle. Yeah, and immediately this bike feels more like on the stable kind of planted side of things. Wow, the dirt up here is really good. Seems like it just rained, but I don't remember that happening. I think one of the most immediate takeaways I had on this bike was just how good this new RockShox Lyric and Super Deluxe was feeling. It is just like incredibly soft on the wrists, buttery. 160 millimeters, so that's a decent amount of cush, but just feel like those buttercups take the edge off, and this bike just feels so soft, I guess, stable, especially front to back. Like it takes, just doing a manual back there, like it takes a little bit more to yank this bike up on the front end, especially considering it's a mixed wheel bike, which should make it a hair easier. Yeah, just really lively, nice suspension. I did ride this bike in the high setting, and I definitely learned that I preferred it in the low setting. Just feel like it relaxes the head angle, drop that bottom bracket down a little bit. That rear end's got just a great ramp up to it. It'll bottom out, but it won't clang or, you know, give you any problems. Fun to kind of have a little fun with that smaller rear wheel. Kick it out a little bit. Definitely one of those bikes that just feels like a really good versatile all-arounder. Sounds like they were going for that with this bike, and I would say they achieved it. I've also been impressed with the brakes on this bike. Got the Code Silvers with the HS2 rotors, and yeah, they have some great power. Yeah, I like this travel category because you can take a beating on a bike like this without getting beat up, but you're still a little bit more peppy, feels good pedaling, doesn't feel sloshy. You're still feeling like in that modern trail bike category, so you feel like you can jump around, but then maybe still keep up with your buddies who are riding longer travel bikes on more aggressive terrain. Like, you have that ability. That's just that kind of all-arounder quiver killer category. Ew. Yeah, feels very comfortable scooting around these on this trail at speed. And this trail has gotten quite a bit bumpier, and this bike is taking it like a champ. I think that attributes to the nice rear shock ramp up and just how good the tune is on this new Lyric, how great those buttercups feel. And I love that, just silence out of the suspension. Such a fan of that. Ew. This trail, you usually, you know, get more beat up and fatigued on it, but despite having 150 millimeters of rear travel, this bike feels fairly buttery. This frame feels fairly like deadened and solid. Maybe a hair on the stiffer side for an aluminum bike. And yeah, these double down tires are just eating the trail up. Oh yeah, wow, just that suspension soaked up those roots really good. I think it comes down a little bit to the double down casing tires and being able to run a little bit less pressure in that tire and eating the energy that way too. A little bit more energy on the way up, but so good and deadened on the way down. Ew. Shows a pretty quality build move out of Devinci. I really love the way the rocker link on this bike looks. Just kind of like machined out really nicely. It just has such a cool look to it, and just a classy way, I think. Yeah, I think one of the biggest, or like bigger defining characteristics of this bike is like the 442 millimeter chainstay. I think it just sets the tone for being a little bit more stable, a little bit more, you know, I don't know if ground hugging is the right word, but, you know, just speed oriented, a little less jibby, and a little bit more like speed oriented. But doesn't feel long, just feels like more balanced. The speed makes me want to like shrelp out the rear end just a hair less and just arc through corners a bit more. This bike also has that split pivot design, which is supposed to be good for keeping the brake really active, or like the suspension really active as you brake, rather, as far as I understand. And yeah, I don't know, feels good. These tires, like a little bit more to drag up the hill, but once you're up here and riding down, just gives this bike, this littler, or mid-sized bike, I guess, such a capable feeling. Ew. Yeah, feeling pretty comfortable at speed on this bike. Kind of a question whether I was gonna do this review at Galbraith or Chuckanut. They're spraying Galbraith today. And you know, I've been doing more like the 170 bikes at Chuckanut lately, but this is just an amazing fit for Chuckanut. Now these codes are pretty powerful. Yo. Yeah, bike feels pretty sure-footed, especially when it comes to these like tighter, you know, traverse sections that feel kind of squirrely and exposed sometimes. Feels like this bike is giving you a sense of stability. It's funny, I don't feel super like this bike has the character of a mixed wheel, you know, bike. Feels kind of planted and like it has good traction in the rear. Ew. So who's this bike for? I'd say this bike is for a rider looking for a quiver killer. They prefer an aluminum bike or a bike made in Canada, or just looking for like a really high quality build. And yeah, they want to be able to pedal long rides, be in that mid-travel category. They might go to the occasional bike park or something like that. This bike can kind of do all that. Great bike for like huge pedal missions. Oh man, with the new rock shocks, it's just so buttery as well. It's just quite incredible how smooth this bike is. That 3.1 damper is like quite the improvement, I think. Ew. This bike certainly has been liking the speed today. So if you like this review, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. And for the full write-up, head over to freehub.com.